Thank you for coming to the April section meeting. We're going to start out with introductions for those in person here. Kick it off here. You can go to the next slide. So for introductions, I'll start. My name's Joe DeVore. I'm this year's NCITE president. Work at KLJ. And then the question of the day, did we have a Mentimeter on this? Nope. Okay. The question of the day is, what 2026 roadway construction project is on the top of your mind? This is a same question as last month, but I think maybe it's changed a little bit. County Road J and 35 is one that's already started changing around phasing plans this year. So that one's right up by me in Lino Lakes. Ethan.
Yeah, I'm Ethan Peterson. I'm the pavement marking and crash-worthy engineer out of MnDOT central office. And as far as that question goes, I'm not involved in a lot of construction projects, but I'm super excited to see where our wet retros. We've got a continuous wet retro minimum that we've been running with for pavement markings, and we're tracking that every year, so I'm kind of excited just to see how that ends up and how long these pavement markings are going to last.
Hi guys, Josh Palmateer. I have to go county road day as well. It's on my computer.
Andy.
Randy Newton, City of St. Paul. Past president. What probably top of mind is the 35-inch road project that just for this week. Great casino.
Great casino. Yeah.
Lycander is formerly SEH, Transit. Currently Norfolk or NCITE. In for birthday cleanup on Wednesday. It's at East West. At River. Backwards. Shepherd Grove.
That's all right.
Whole railroad. Mass availability.
Jamie Spilot with Michael Baker. 2003 young
Only dates you a little bit.
Question of the day, so top of mind.
John Shulkoff, also Michael Baker. As you mentioned, project work on getting more of the 494.
Third or fourth year.
Capital cost substantial completion. Labor Day. A lot of pavement to do. Oh, no, right.
Mm-hmm.
The 280. 5 and
I've seen 2026.
most of
I know we've got quite a few people online too. You want to just run through the names? Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, going into some of the upcoming events for NCIT and IT, the big ones coming up for IT is the joint annual meeting with Great Lakes District. So that's going to be from July 19th through 22nd. There's also the Student Leadership Summit on July 17th and 18th before that. So I know we've got 2 traffic bowl teams of students, one from the U of M and one kind of a blended team of all of our NCITE student groups. So St. Thomas, keep that in mind for next year. That's kind of like a Jeopardy style competition of just traffic engineering nerd questions. And then the Student Leadership Summit is on the Saturday, where it's a full day of kind of student-led presentations about different traffic engineering that they've been doing from all the district's student chapters. So as far as upcoming NCITE events, we've got our ethics training next week. That'll be at Modus Brewing there in Minneapolis. Christine Cubes will be presenting. So another kind of happy hour ethics event there. And then NCIT May section meeting will be a road show in South Dakota. We're happy to be partnering with ITS Northern Lights Conference in ITS Minnesota in presenting out there for kind of a lunch meeting that will look to do a virtual presentation for a lot of the people in the Twin Cities here. Committee meetings coming up. The Intersection Traffic Control Committee is meeting next week on the 21st. That'll be a morning meeting going through the signal timing survey spreadsheet led by the city of Minneapolis. Blake made reference to the Earth Day cleanup for the YMC. So that's going on the 22nd. And then the following week, Street Design and Safety has a committee meeting on April 30th. Mark Wagner will be presenting with Chelsea Moore from SRF on MnDOT's school zone speed limit guide. So with that, I'll turn it over to Justin to do introductions of our speakers today. And maybe the last announcement, there still is 2 Saints tickets if people don't have plans for later tonight.
So today we have Ethan Peterson, who is a graduate of the U of M and started with MnDOT in 2016 as a state pavement marking and crash-worthy engineer. In that role, he develops and manages pavement marking policies, guidelines, and practices, along with researching and evaluating new pavement marking methods, processes, products, and materials. He also develops policies, guidelines, and practices related to the crash-worthy requirements for traffic control devices and temporary barrier. Before MnDOT, he worked in the private sector for 5 years, working on various traffic and road design related projects. We also have Josh Palmateer, who is a senior traffic engineer at SEH with 13 years of traffic engineering experience, focused on signing, pavement marking, and maintenance of traffic, ITS, signal, and lighting plan development. He is also a U of M civil engineering graduate who supports public agency and private development projects from concept through final design. He is a licensed professional engineer in 6 states across the country and is certified as a road safety professional level 2 with an infrastructure emphasis. Let's give a nice warm welcome to these two presenters.
Thank you. I'm gonna have to just clip this in my beard. No, I won't do that. But no, it's a pleasure being here today, and definitely appreciate the time here. I guess I'll start off by saying that we were really hoping that the aesthetic surface treatment tech memo was going to be published by now, but it's not. Close. It's close. Everything in this presentation is going to be it. I think we've solidified most of it. We've done a statewide review. We're getting there. It's some of the legal stuff that kind of revolves around this right now that's been kind of a challenge for us, but we're getting there. I think everything I say in here is going to be accurate, but just to throw that in there, that's kind of where it's at. And I definitely want to thank Josh because he's been on this project and he's really driven this through and has helped us put together a lot of this framework. And with this, I guess we just want to really here. We want to explain what ASTs mean in this context, why guidance is really needed now, the main guardrails in the technical memorandum, and the application progress. So the overall goal is a clear and consistent approach that can support community ideals while protecting safety, uniformity, and long-term operations. Sorry, I've got a dual wield these computers as we go through this. So this is just the purpose and outline, and kind of what I said in the last slide. We'll go through what an AST is for MnDOT and what it means on our right of way, why guidance is needed now, where ASTs may and may not fit in, materials, skid resistance, colors, and restrictions. There's a lot of restrictions that the feds have put on us with the new MUTCD. We can kind of go over a little bit of that. And then the application process and really the next steps with all of this moving into the future. And I expect it to change every time, I'm sorry. So at a basic level, an aesthetic surface treatment is a decorative pavement treatment used for placement and placemaking and community identity. These treatments are most common in pedestrian-focused spaces such as plazas, curb extensions, medians, sidewalks, and similar areas. Probably seen them a lot in sidewalks, honestly. For MnDOT, the key point is that AST has to remain clearly decorative. It can't interfere with visibility, accessibility, or official traffic control devices. And that distinction is really what drives the rest of the guidance I'm going to go over here. Well, me and Josh. So we kind of divided it into, and I did the reverse that time. We've kind of divided it into permanent ASTs, temporary ASTs, and infrastructure aesthetic surface treatments. So it helps to think about these treatments in these 3 broad categories. First, the permanent, it uses durable pavement marking materials intended to stay in place for about a year or more. So we'll get to materials later. I'm not going to jump ahead. Second is the temporary ASTs, which cover shorter duration treatments, which can be fully removed or they're out there just for a few weeks, maybe a couple months at a time. Third is infrastructure aesthetic surface treatments, which is something that's built in to the facility itself from the start. So think like dyed pavements, colored or pattern paving. That distinction it matters a lot because not every treatment type is going to be handled the same way and won't be handled in this aesthetic surface treatment tech memo. So yeah, as I kind of alluded to, the temporary isn't going to get covered in this, and the aesthetic isn't either. Mainly because temporary is out there for so short of a time, it's not really going to be that big of an issue. And then infrastructure aesthetic surface treatments are something that you're going to have to be thinking about at the beginning of projects, and you're going to have to incorporate it into everything. Oh, did it? Oh no. Okay, well, we're good now. Okay, perfect. So another early screening question is whether the installation is being credited to a specific artist. This is going to be a big deal for us because if the answer is yes, there's a policy that's been put together and has been kind of going through all these iterations, and it's the art on MnDOT right-of-way policy, and that's going to really drive how dealing with artist attributed art on our right-of-way will be dealt with. It's a little bit more onerous. That matters because credited artwork raises additional considerations, including intellectual property and the fact that the installation may not be intended to function or last like a standard permanent treatment, like a lot of the other infrastructure things that could be out there. The main takeaway is to identify this issue early and then know that you're going down that path and not this one. So why now, right? There's just a growing interest nationwide. We're definitely getting the questions more and more, especially with the MUT being updated and having something specifically for that. I'll talk a little bit about the development of the MUTCD here soon. Definitely more requests coming out. And then FHW research is still evolving. I don't know how much you've seen on the crosswalks going on nationally, the aesthetic surface treatments crosswalks nationally. There's like kind of some contention there. And MnDOT needs a consistent statewide approach to apply these and make sure that it's fairly applied, right? So as I alluded to, the 10th edition of the MUTCD, which was it was a long time coming, right? I think the last publication was 2009 before the most current one. So it definitely focused on colored pavements, and there was like just a snippet that said something about aesthetic surface treatments. We didn't really know what it meant. They elaborated a little bit, but not a lot. Pretty much told us that it needed to imitate paving or natural stone, sand, the likes like that. And then with the new 11th edition, it really dives in and it doesn't give us everything we wanted. It's the MUTCD, so it leaves a lot open still, but it definitely adds that section specifically for aesthetic surface treatments, and it separates ASG from the official traffic control markings. It's more of a set aside, it's more making sure that it doesn't line up with traffic control devices that the MUT controls, not telling what that should be. And it's definitely sets clear guidelines because there weren't any before. So this slide summarizes what the technical memorandum is intended to do. At a high level, it supports community initiatives while still protecting safety, uniformity, and operations. More specifically, it does 4 things. It sets aside guardrails for permanent ASTs in trunk highway right-of-way. It helps identify where these ASTs may fit and where it should not. It provides guidance on materials, durability, skid resistance, and constructability. And it clarifies who's responsible for review, maintenance, repair, and removal. Definitely a big side of that. And then with that framework in place, I'll turn it over to Josh to walk through where these treatments may or may not fit in and the main design considerations that come with him.
Good evening, everyone. It's been 13 years that I've been sitting here watching presenters, and now I'm finally here presenting myself. So awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining. I'm going to talk you guys through the locations that MnDOT is intending to permit aesthetic surface treatments. The first constraint is speed limits. So we're not going to allow aesthetic surface treatments on high-speed roadways. So that's 40 miles or less. We're going to allow aesthetic surface treatments on what I'm calling simple intersections. There will be more details on this in the technical memo. But the intention is that these should be easier to follow intersections. We're going to allow, you can see here in the little picture there, aesthetic surface treatments will be allowed on sidewalks, bike lane buffers, refuge islands, painted curb extensions, shoulders, boulevards, and parking lanes. I didn't hit that button. It changed on its own. I think I have a timer on this presentation. Areas that are restricted, notice I didn't say crosswalks anywhere. That's going to be a big one for a lot of people. Ethan and I, we took a look and we consulted with our MnDOT partners, and we don't have enough information to conclude that there's not a safety conflict between aesthetic surface treatments and crosswalks. So at this point, we're not allowing those. We might allow those in the future. We're also not allowing aesthetic surface treatments in the bike and vehicle travel lanes. The idea behind this is aesthetic surface treatments, they have a lower coefficient of friction. And so for safety reasons, we're not allowing aesthetic surface treatments where bikes or vehicles would be driving. As mentioned above or before, we're not allowing speeds above 40 miles an hour. We're not allowing them on freeways, ramps, or complex intersections. Intersections with dual turn lanes, we're not allowing those aesthetic surface treatments at those locations. And then finally, anywhere where we already have a safety concern or a maintenance concern, we would not be allowing aesthetic surface treatments in those areas. The ask would be that we resolve those safety or maintenance concerns before aesthetic surface treatments get added. Okay, how many U of M graduates do we have here? Okay, how many of you guys remember Lev Kazanovich? We got one. All right, what was his catchphrase? It's right there. There is no free lunch. There is no free lunch, yes. So no matter which pavement marking type you choose, there's trade-offs, right? Just like with everything. So the first option here is paint. Ethan and I talked about it. MnDOT is going to require a traffic grade paint that is water-based. Aesthetic surface treatments are going on the roadway. They're going to wear off. So oil-based paints, no good. We need something that when it does wear off, it's not going to be a hazard. The nice thing about paint is volunteers can install it. It's pretty easy to apply. It's not going to last very long. This is Minnesota. Snowplows are going to run over stuff. It's going to have to be refreshed quite often. There's going to be maintenance involved. The next material type is epoxy / MMA. They're different. They're same material type, different lifespans. MMA is actually going to be at the top end of the lifespan. The trade-off with this is it's usually going to have to be a contractor that goes out and installs this. It's not something that a community group can do. The last option here is preformed thermoplastic. Preformed thermoplastic can be very durable. The trade-off with preformed thermoplastic is installation costs. It's really expensive, especially if you want something custom fabricated. If you're looking for basic geometrics that they can kind of cut out from just a basic shape, that could be somewhat, oh, thanks. Did it, oh, it jumped ahead here too. Okay. So I guess the main takeaway here is, think about your project, think about the materials, think about who's going to be installing it and maintaining it, and choose the right product. As part of the AST technical memo, we did a synthesis study. These items are from the Bloomberg report, or the Bloomberg Asphalt Safety Study. I should probably call it the right name. But this just kind of shows you, I highlighted in yellow, 2 of the different projects that we looked at. The top one uses latex markings, and the total cost for the project was $1,000. It can go pretty cheap. That was in Seattle. And then in Des Moines, there was a preformed thermoplastic project, and that was upwards of $240,000. So there's a wide range of costs depending upon what you're looking to do. One of the critical factors here is pedestrian safety. No matter where we're putting aesthetic surface treatments, whether it's on the sidewalk or whether it's on the shoulder, it's important that we have a level of traction there. If you just go out and put epoxy or paint down, there's going to be very little traction for pedestrians or bikes or vehicles, whoever's on those facilities. So we're going to be requiring, MnDOT's going to be requiring that we add some skid resistant material to all markings. We also are going to be requiring that we don't cover detectable surfaces or truncated domes. And for our vision impaired users, we ask that we don't have long straight lines or borders or stripes, just because it could look like the curb to a roadway. Let's see, and I think there's a video. Could you hit the button for the video? The video just shows skid resistant material being applied to a stripe. So you can see one person is painting, and then the skid resistant material is being applied as they go along. Yeah. It's a short video.
Epoxy with a little different than what you put in latex.
Yep.
This is what they call corundum, which is yeah, I'm trying to remember the actual name of it. Like I think it's a silica, and so it's something that's pretty hard. It has a Mohs hardness of I think what we require in skid aggregate stuff is it needs a Mohs hardness of over 7, and this is 8. So it's pretty hard and durable. So they put it in a lot of the really durable markings because it can withstand, it can hold out as long as the material.
That just because
It is. Yeah. It's like a white translucent. There's also some glass, brushed glass that you could put in at times that would also work in latex. Something like sand would work perfectly fine, to be honest. Just give it a little grit. So, especially knowing that it's not going to last all that long.
Yeah, something to consider is if you're, like in the video, if you're adding skid resistant material on top of the pavement markings, it could change the color if you're using sand. So if the community is looking for very specific colors, something to consider is you look into which material you use. Oh, there we go. Okay. So not every community is going to be able to just apply anti-skid material as they're going along. So we have a couple of options here for adding skid resistance to our pavement markings. The first one is they do make like a mix-in additive. So you can purchase paint and then mix in those additives before the material is applied. The second option is kind of what we just saw, that was broadcasting on your paint. So some compromises there, especially with color and the uniformity of application, but that's going to give you a higher skid resistance. The third option here is broadcasting with a lock coat. So my understanding is basically you get the ASTs, the community's done with their work, you're basically going to add a layer over the initial AST, a clear coat, and then you'll apply the skid resistance on top of the clear coat. And the third one is work with your manufacturers. They might have a product that comes pre-assembled with the skid resistant material. That's going to give the best uniformity and the best, I think, the best traction. But there's compromises with cost, and it could be like a proprietary, less flexible solution. They might have restrictive colors. Check with your manufacturers. Move. Go. All right. Is that safe? Probably not something that we want to do or allow on MnDOT roadways. The idea is we don't want devices that are going to conflict with the MUTCD, and we want safe implementation of aesthetic surface treatments. So to do that, it's pretty clear. Don't put a big red stop sign on the shoulder of your roadway. That's going to conflict with the MUTCD. That's not something that we're going to be allowing. Avoid misleading cues, so chevrons, arrows, wayfinding. We're not going to be allowing that. No 3D illusions, not just because it might be confusing to people. People might understand it. We have more and more autonomous vehicles on the roadways. They may not. So we have to kind of cater here to the lowest common denominator. No LEDs or illumination. They look really cool, but not something that we'll be allowing. And then the last thing I'll mention is no raised ridges or textured overlays. It would be kind of cool to have something that feels good on your feet or like a unique texture, but that encourages people to be in the roadway, which is not the goal of aesthetic surface treatments. The goal is for them to look pretty, not to feel pretty. This is the fun little color box map that we put together. The areas that are hatched are the color boxes that are restricted by the MUTCD. So any colors outside of the hatching would be allowed. What Ethan and I want to recommend is that you work with your manufacturer to just make sure they know the color boxes in and out. Work with your manufacturer to choose colors that are not within these color boxes. This is required by the MUTCD, so MnDOT is going to do some scrutiny on this. We're going to request, the color boxes ahead of time, I think, before installation. I think that's what I remember. Yeah. Yep. Last thing I'll mention is no fluorescent colors will be allowed. So I'm sorry, neon 90s fans. The last thing I'll mention is, let's say that there's a blue color, like you want to be up there, right? Again, work with your manufacturer. They'll know the color boxes. They'll get you right outside of that color box, and that is totally allowed. As long as it's not within those color boxes, within those coordinates, should be good. Oh. I'm glad you asked. Yes. You can see some of these I have like a PM and a CP. So the colors here, we got a comment during our memo preparation. We need ASTs to be outside of the color boxes for colored pavement, pavement markings, and signing. So it gets pretty restrictive when you have all of those colors restricted. Yep. The yellow, the bright yellow is boxed. Well, I shouldn't say that. So this is the yellow, and that's the color box that's in the MUTCD. I did the best to represent it here.
I think if you play with it enough, you can get almost the color you want. But
Yep.
Display of the second color.
We were hoping that this would be easier to understand, right? Because they can say, oh, we want that color or this color. If you have any,
understand some of these colors.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna be easy to translate enough of people.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, the feds picked XY, and that's what we're doing. I don't know. I mean, we're just literally translating what the feds have out there for colors.
And I'm thinking like, they think they want Pantone this, and that's similar to that, like, we can give them this depends on
Mhm.
printer.
That's why we say to work with the manufacturers as closely as you can, because they'll know all this. This is what they have to stay within for everything. And this is what we test all of the traffic marking, pavement marking colors against. So that's why I think that with a lot of this, it's just, please just work with the manufacturers to make sure, you have an idea of a color, give it to them. They can give you something that falls in the realm or a few different and you can pick from them. Yeah, it's going to be tough for any of us to really define it easily. Colors aren't easily defined. Like, one of the big things I've found going through all this.
Thanks for the question. You guys think that this is a visible pavement marking to the motoring traffic? Probably not. So what MnDOT's going to do is they're going to require a gap of at least 6 inches between pavement markings and aesthetic surface treatments, and more if the pavement markings are wider. So if you have a 24-inch stripe, we would require at least a 24-inch width between the stripe and the aesthetic surface treatment. Same thing with pavement messages. MnDOT's going to require at least a foot of clearance from the pavement messages to any aesthetic surface treatment. That just helps maintain the visibility of the aesthetic surface treatments. One thing that we're going to require is that we don't extend aesthetic surface treatments onto any vertical surfaces. The reason for this is vertical surfaces are themselves a hazard, and we don't want to disguise the hazards. People are expecting a gray curb, not a blue one.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
I think an example.
Yeah. It's more shoulders. Like if you're gonna do it on a shoulder and then you're offsetting it off of, your edge line, making sure that that edge line is clearly defined before you get it.
Sure.
So,
Or like in the parking lanes, right? We would need at least, if the parking lane stripe is at least is 6 inches, then we would require a 6-inch clearance between the parking lane marking and the aesthetic surface treatment.
Less likely that it'd be up against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not likely. It's more than likely gonna be up against an edge line
Hmm.
or center line.
I'll repeat questions. Okay. Then Ethan, I think it goes back to you.
Okay.
Look at you.
Cool. Bring her home here. But I guess, yeah, we haven't went through questions. I'll keep that in mind. And the last one, I guess, was based on where we would see our ASTs going against like a longitudinal marking. And that's what we were pointing out, was just that would likely be in shoulders or buffer areas. So, because we're not allowing it in drive lanes like that picture showed. So, okay, content restrictions. So this is another area where MnDOT draws a firm line, and this is, a lot of this is, I'd say that a lot of these restrictions are straight out of the MUTCD. I'll tell you that. Like the first one right there, no advertising, logos, trademarks, or sponsored marks. That's in the MUTCD. No text, lettering, numbers, or initials on pavement. No traffic related symbols. So that's just stay away from anything that could be a traffic control device, right? We don't want to confuse people out there. No games or designs that entertain lingering, right? Like hopscotch or something on the roadway. We don't want people pausing traffic to interact with these things. We don't want to make it a hazard, right? And then maintenance and operations, definitely want to make sure that whatever we put out there, we're able to fit all of our other infrastructure into and make sure that they aren't affected negatively as well. So if I avoid painting over utilities and drainage features, we're not quite sure. And even around them, I know that we might put some around them, but it'll be interesting to see how it affects watershed. It shouldn't really be a big deal, if the grading's correct, but some of these pavement markings can build up a decent amount, and maybe water will get thrown off by the skid aggregate we're throwing in. We'll see. Sponsor is responsible. So the sponsor will be responsible for refreshing, repairing, or removal if the AST fades or becomes unsafe. So something, that becomes completely unrecognizable and starts to look almost ugly, you don't want out there exactly. MnDOT may remove an AST that interferes with maintenance or operations. We want to let them know that if we need to chip seal something, obviously we'll tell them before that. But emergency repair or something, we're going to have to remove that because that's going to trump it, right? And then removal costs may be billed to the sponsor if we're forced to do it. Just making sure that that's on them. And MnDOT does not provide traffic control plans either. So that's a big thing. If you're in the roadway, a lot of the costs here will probably be traffic control, right? If you have to go down and shut a lane down or something, just making sure that people understand everything that goes into doing this if you need to do it, or if you're going to do it. So here's kind of the rundown of what we see the application process being. So the main takeaway is that the process starts early, not an installation. First, there needs to be a sponsor to be eligible. That needs to be an eligible public entity. So like a city, a school district or something. And they need to coordinate with the district traffic engineer to confirm that the site is appropriate. Then the sponsor prepares the application package and submits the miscellaneous work permit with the required supporting documents. MnDOT reviews that package before anything is installed. And if the request is approved, the project can move into installation and then ongoing maintenance. Likely signing a maintenance agreement as well into that. So this is the this is a slide that shows what MnDOT's expecting in a complete application process, actual application package. The first part is design and location information, so MnDOT can understand the site, the AST limits, the buffers, and the exact location being proposed. The second part is installation and materials information, including the traffic control plan for installation, material specifications, and the proposed color swatches and coordinates, just to verify. The third part is stewardship and support, meaning that maintenance and removal plan and evidence of community support via that sponsor is there with something such as a letter of resolution. So the application is not just about what the treatment looks like, it's also about whether it can be installed, maintained, and supported over time, making sure that there's actual buy-in and they're doing it appropriately and making sure to care for it too. So I think that's the end. We made it. It's a lot of stuff. I don't know of many states that have jumped on this. Hoping it ends up all right. You know, with any iteration like this, it's gonna be figured out as we go. I think that we're happy that at the same time, so we kind of alluded to back, I wanted to touch on the crosswalks and some of that stuff. You know, we decided to stay away from that for now because there's not strong evidence that people with low vision can navigate these things correctly. And also the skid resistance aspect of it needs to be figured out as well. We launched a project looking at how people with low vision actually interact with certain things like this. So we'll be going through trials and trying to figure out exactly how that goes. And, you know, we definitely don't have as much ability to take on risk like some of the cities, and a lot of your guys' facilities, I know talking to St. Paul specifically, is that a lot of the safety studies or safety stuff that's revolved around it, it's been in urban core areas, you know, like neighborhood, urban, suburban areas. And a lot of our roadways really don't fall into that bucket. So we're going to be a lot more restrictive than some of these other cities that are able to kind of roll this out differently. So it's going to look a lot differently from us and all the other public entities out there. But yeah, we're hoping to figure it all out as we go here. I'm hoping this is a good start. So definitely appreciate the time. And if you have any other questions, we're open to fielding them.
Thanks again for presenting, and let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.